Welcome to Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation possible. You will get to hear from CSIA system integrators and industry partners to get a better understanding of how they help their clients solve process challenges and how they've earned success in their careers. Along the way, we will touch on system integration best practices, technology, trends, and challenges. Whether you are a manufacturer, end user, supplier, or system integrator, you will enjoy the insights these industry professionals bring to this podcast. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Lisa Richter, the host of Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation and processing possible. In today's episode, we're sitting down with Bryan Powrozek, a manager with Clayton and McKervey, a global tax and accounting firm in Southfield, Michigan. After a dozen years as a mechanical engineer, Bryan joined the firm in 2011, where he uses his background in systems and processes to help manufacturers and system integrators in several areas, including project management for research and experimentation tax credits and accounting services for domestic and international clients. But his secret sauce, so to speak, is making complex issues easy for his clients to understand. Let's hope so, because we are about to dig into some stuff. Bryan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
For starters, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background?
So as you kind of mentioned there in the intro, my undergrad education is actually in mechanical engineering. I spent about 12 years in the auto industry doing product development and systems engineering for a supplier. And then in 2011, I changed careers, came over to Clayton and McKervey, and currently I am a manager in our system integrators practice.
So you mentioned that you shifted from mechanical engineering to accounting. How did that happen and why?
When I was going back to school for my MBA, I knew going into it that I didn't want to stay in engineering. I was looking for some opportunities outside of engineering to move on with my career. And so I went into it with an open mind, looking at all the different potential options, marketing, finance, accounting. And when I first got involved in my accounting courses, I realized there was a lot of similarities between the skills you needed to be successful with accounting and the skills you need to be successful in engineering. So that's where I found the profession and decided to change careers.
And do you feel like this work is making maybe more of an impact than it would have if you'd stuck with mechanical engineering?
Yeah, when I was trying to decide which avenue to go with my career, that was one of my main drivers. Is I wanted to find something where I felt like I was having more of an impact on the companies I was working with or the services I was providing.
I imagine there are ways where the two professions are similar. And by two professions, I mean mechanical engineering and accounting. Are they similar, and if so, how?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and because I think most people, when they think about accounting and engineering, they don't see very many similarities between the two. Accountants, most people think, our primary role is to prepare financial statements and tax returns. But in reality, the roles or the professions are very similar. You go beyond the foundation of, mathematics and the analytical skills that both professions use. But really, when you come right down to it, both professions are really focused on solving problems. It's just that the subject matter you're dealing with is different.
I would imagine some of the skill sets are similar too, right? This attention to detail and willingness to stay really focused on something that maybe other people would not be really that interested in, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I often tell people that this was all part of my plan to monopolize, the most boring professions out there. So I've got accounting and engineering down and just looking for the next one.
Yeah, way back in my baby youth, one of my first jobs was in an accounting department of a car dealership of all places. And I wasn't very good at it, but I found it super satisfying when I balanced the bank account to the penny. If I found that 2 cents that was off, I was doing a victory lap around the office. So I get that there could be something very rewarding from that. So a lot of people think of the tax or accounting services as just the services that a CPA provides. But as you mentioned, there are other ways that you can help your clients solve problems. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. And this is probably the area that we end up spending most of our time with clients, because when you think about the information that clients have to provide us to do those compliance-based services, we're seeing a lot kind of behind the curtain on how the business runs. And so because they have to have that high level of trust with us, we get to see a lot more than maybe other service providers that they might be working with, maybe their attorney or their financial planner. And so in that role, we'll often find them asking our advice on different challenges that they might be encountering in their business. And so we do spend a lot more time doing strategic planning and helping with, process optimization and succession planning for our clients than just the traditional compliance services that people would think about.
Can you give me a sense of the size of the clients that you're working with? Are you working from everything from like one guy in a garage to a big, huge plant out in the middle of a cornfield somewhere? Help me understand the scope.
Sure. Yeah. So our focus in terms of clients is really that small to mid-size companies. So, we probably say anywhere from, 5 million in annual revenues up to a couple $100 million in annual revenues on the high end. But really beyond, just those numbers, all of our clients are privately held. They're not publicly traded. We don't do any work with governments or non-for-profit entities. So that really lets us focus in on, the entrepreneurs who are looking to grow their business and need advice and counsel on how to accomplish the things they're looking to do.
I spent another part of my career as a freelancer, and I remember really enjoying all the actual work, the writing and the marketing and all that stuff. What I hated was the invoicing and all that stuff. So I imagine that translates as well for these people who are growing their businesses. They're really good engineers, or they're really good X, and then all that other stuff, they don't particularly like to do it, and maybe they aren't as well versed in that. So I could see where you guys would be a very added resource for companies like that.
Yeah, and that actually, that describes our, typical client to the T. You think about an entrepreneur who's growing their business, particularly, someone who might be a system integrator. They're probably a very strong engineer who, eventually got the bug to start a business and try and do it on their own. So they understand the robotics and the controls and all the things that they sell to their customers extremely well, but they don't have that background in finance or accounting or marketing or things like that. So, when they can lean on us to bring that skill set in, it helps them continue to grow until they reach a critical mass where, they would probably bring those resources in-house.
So this exposure to this large cross-section of SIs and other companies lets you see some opportunities that these companies may be missing. Can you expand on that a little bit?
I think that's actually probably one of the more exciting parts of my job is that I get to see what various different integrators are doing and how they're managing the, kind of the back office of their business, see the things that work, see the things that don't work, and then kind of carry some of those lessons across to other clients of mine. So that's one of the more enjoyable parts for me. In terms of opportunities, I think one of the biggest ones, most companies right off the bat are trying to find ways to free up cash, and so one area that we see a lot of companies not taking full advantage of is the R&E tax credit for research and development activities. So that's one thing that we speak to a lot of our clients about. And more recently, digitally transforming their back office, and I think that's as anyone knows, it's a lot easier to give advice than it is to take the advice yourself. So, we're able to come in and help business owners kind of change the way that they're doing things in their finance and accounting department and bring it more up to the, kind of the modern technologies that other businesses are using to run.
That's kind of where this started. I saw this blog post where you're kind of speaking to this, and you mentioned that when people think of that digital transformation, they're immediately thinking of images of the factory floor and this convergence of OT and IT. But I think it's often overlooked at how much this is also impacting, as you said, the other areas of the business. What are some ways that you're seeing that play out?
It's really interesting because if you think about any repetitive manual task, you think about when the robots were first starting to be implemented on the manufacturing floor, it was taking over, driving in a screw or picking up this part and placing it over there. And you can kind of take that same approach to the work being done, in a finance and accounting department. What we see a lot of is companies now using robotic process automation, and not in the sense of putting robots in chairs at the desk and they're taking care of things, but installing bots on their network that are handling some of those repetitive tasks like accounts payable, accounts receivable, where we've seen an example of this where you can actually have a bot set up on your network. When your vendor invoices come in, the bot recognizes that there's a new invoice. It goes, collects all the information using optical character recognition, pulls all the pertinent information off the invoice, enters it into the accounting system, forwards that on to somebody, a human to review it. If the person looks at everything's okay, then the bot moves on to the next step of following up on payments and things like that. So a lot of those things where you had people, sitting around and keying in information and potentially miskeying information. And, you mentioned earlier about, tracking down and balancing things to the penny. Accounting departments spend a lot of time chasing those pennies, right? And it turns out because somebody keyed in 12 cents as opposed to 21 cents, and now you got to go through and clean all that up. So using, RPA, you're able to eliminate some of that inefficiency that's in the process.
Well, we're doing it. We're rolling out all the new value CSIA has for system integrators and vendor partners this year. If you haven't heard, we've completely revamped our content delivery strategy for 2021 to include weekly virtual events that will continue the CSIA tradition of knowledge sharing, community building, and networking, but also capitalize on the opportunities and innovation digital delivery offers. The best part is, this online strategy means anyone from your company, from the newbies to the seasoned pros, will have access to education and content that would have normally been out of reach. Don't worry, we still have all the other goodies that come with CSIA membership, including the highly valued best practices, professional services discounts, and benchmarking, training, and a completely revamped marketing toolbox. All this with no dues increase over 2020. To learn more, visit www.controlsys.org/join-2021. Let's do this. We also hear a lot about big data and artificial intelligence on the plant floor. But again, how are those concepts changing the business or the admin end of things?
Yeah, this is another really interesting thing that we're starting to see within our client base is that, you think about how an integrator is trying to use big data to predict, when does a machine need maintenance, or is a bearing starting to go out so you can order it and have it before it fails. The same thing applies to how the business is being run internally. And you look at a lot of businesses and they're operating off of Excel spreadsheets that have been built over the years and require a lot of manual input. But now, as all of our devices and databases are becoming more connected, a lot of that data can be pulled out automatically as opposed to having to get somebody to input it. You kind of go back to that invoicing issue we talked about, that you're no longer dependent on somebody keying in the information correctly. It's coming directly from the source. And then the tools that are available now for business owners to gain insights. We talked to a lot of our clients about a Microsoft product called Power BI that's essentially Excel on steroids, but it lets them analyze data to a lot greater detail, potentially find trends and things that they might not have seen before. So the fact that those kind of tools are now available to the masses is enabling business owners to make better decisions. We're also seeing a shift in finance and accounting departments away from, kind of more historical, viewing of information to trying to look more towards the future. If you think about your typical financial statement or even, key performance indicators, they're all, kind of descriptive or diagnostic. It tells the business owner what happened previously. But some of these new AI tools that are out there are going to help business owners start to look to the future and find prescriptive or predictive KPIs that will help them tell where the business is going. One example of that, I was speaking with a gentleman from a company who develops these kind of data analytic tools. And they set up for a client an accounts receivable analytic that was going in and looking at based on different characteristics and different trends that have happened in the past with the company, kind of highlighting for them when there's a potential collections issue with a customer before the invoice is 120 days overdue, so they can start collections activities earlier. And they've actually seen a dramatic decrease in the number of customer invoices that have to be written off because they're looking at this data and kind of getting a warning sign sooner that they're not going to be able to collect.
Yeah, and what's nice about that, they've got the hard numbers to show the ROI on that investment, right? Because making that business case for a big change or big investment can sometimes be a challenge. So it sounds like there's a lot of good opportunities out there, but I have to imagine that there are some barriers or challenges to these technologies as well, right?
And it's the same challenges that the business owners will see anytime they're trying to make any sort of operational change, right? I think first and foremost is making sure that you've got the buy-in within your organization. If your team is not behind, implementing a certain change or implementing a new software, they'll find every reason why not to use it, and then you'll just end up going back to the way you did things before. So that is. That's probably, first and foremost is getting that commitment. The next thing is really kind of understanding not only where you want to go, but where you are currently, because it's really hard to recommend a new software solution or a new way of running your business if you don't really understand how you're doing it today. So we spend a lot of time with clients kind of walking through, how do they do things currently? What do they want to do in the future? And then identify, what are the gaps, what are the things, the tools that they need to get from kind of their current state to their future state.
And then is there a plan that needs to go along with that? Or can you give me an example?
Probably an example just from our own internal processes, things we're trying to do. We're constantly evaluating, how can we continue to grow and service our clients better and develop product offerings that maybe we don't have today that will be beneficial to our clients. We're going through a process right now of really analyzing and understanding where we're at, what our clients are, what their needs are, and then finding ways that if we're not, filling those needs right now, is there a way for us to do it? Is it, finding someone we can refer them out to if it's maybe not something that's in our particular area of expertise. It's just kind of taking that measured approach and not just jumping in and chasing the next hot technology that everybody hears about blockchain, but is blockchain really going to benefit your business, or is it something that you're just pursuing because you think that you've got to have the latest and greatest technology?
Yeah, I come from a marketing background, and I can attest that these same challenges and opportunities exist on that side of the business. I see a lot of CMOs, many of whom are baby boomers or not far behind. They're starved for talent, not only because the labor market is tight, but because their background is more in the traditional marketing techniques. I guess the Excel spreadsheets, if you will. We're doing the direct mail and the print really solid there. But they really need those digital natives to drive change and to kind of manage up. Is that true or similar in the finance and accounting departments? And if so, what should decision makers do about it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much going to be true across the board in most organizations. In public accounting, I can personally attest to the pace of change, how quickly things are moving along. And so if you look at one of our owners who's been here for 25, 30 years, it's been hard enough for him to just get up to speed with the latest Excel functions and things that can be done in there. So then to expect that person to go out and look into Power BI or one of these data analytics tools that are out there, it's just not realistic, So one of the things we've been trying to really focus on is getting our younger, more technologically native staff to take on some of these things and investigate and find out, hey, is there a better way for us to do a particular function or a particular task, but then still have, the more senior members of the firm kind of overseeing the work that's being done and making sure that they don't miss some pitfalls or things like that they might not be thinking about. I think probably the best example of that I could give is we have a team here, our technology steering committee, that is responsible for kind of overseeing the new technologies we implement, updates to the existing technologies we use. And so that team isn't solely responsible for figuring all those things out. But if a particular department or set of departments needs a tool, this team will kind of oversee it and make sure that everyone's on the same page and that our assurance practice doesn't go and implement a software and application that the kind of goes counter to what our tax department is doing. And so now you end up with this, this disconnect. So, but then where possible, we're delegating that work out to the respective departments or the people that are actually going to be using the software to figure out the right way to implement it and the right softwares to use.
So there's this blurring of lines between professions that we're seeing all over the place. Again, maybe it's the marketing department / IT department clashing over their MarTech stack. You start to get all this shadow IT. I'm guilty of it. Right now I'm using like 2 programs I'm not supposed to be using just because they're so much easier than the little tiny soul destroying Excel cells. I've got this big fancy whiz bang thing. So how do we combat this? Are there ways we can maybe look at different hiring methods or models, or got any advice there?
Yeah, actually, this is something that the accounting profession is grappling with, and I know from speaking with our system integrator clients. I mean, talent, finding people, retaining people is kind of challenge number one for everybody. In our world, what that looks like is do we need to go outside of kind of our traditional model? I'd say 90% of our new hires are accounting candidates. They've got their bachelor's or master's in accounting. They're going for their CPA, but are those really the only types of employees we're going to need in the future? I think the best example, and I talk about this with a lot of our clients, is data scientists. It seems everybody is looking for data scientists now. The integrators need them to go in and analyze those vast amounts of data being developed by their systems to develop the preventative maintenance tools and things like that. We need them to go in and analyze client financial data so we can try and provide better insights. So I think there's going to be a lot of people competing for that pool of data scientists. And so the other thing becomes do you look at different educational paths? Talking to some clients of the firm who are more focused on software development, there are these they call massive open online courses. There's a website Coursera or edX where you can go in and study just the specific type of software coding that you want to learn. You don't need to go to a 4-year university anymore to learn software development. You can learn the language in a couple months on one of these platforms, and now you're ready to start doing the work. So is there a way that companies can do something similar to that where, you don't need to go out and find a 4-year college graduate and bring them into the fold? Is there a way to take somebody that maybe was working out as a, one of your machine builders or something like that, get them trained on how to develop the PLC software, and now you're getting more from them than and it's easier for you to find that person in your own facility rather than going out and trying to recruit them. And then the last thing I see a lot of our clients doing is trying to develop close relationships with their local educational community, trying to establish those connections where if they find a student that would be a good fit within their organization, the professors or the teachers are reaching out to them directly or pointing the student in their direction versus just showing up at a campus recruiting fair and trying to compete with everybody else who's going after that same pool of talent.
Are your accounting systems optimized for the needs of your system integration business? Do you understand the KPIs critical to business performance? And are you prepared to proactively manage your short and long-term cash needs while minimizing your tax liabilities? Well, I've got some super exciting news to share about a brand new CSIA financial checkup program brought to you by long-term member Clayton and McKervey, CPAs for system integrators. Now, if you are a CSIA member, you will have access to this exclusive program designed to bring you support in 4 key financial areas: accounting systems, performance metrics, tax planning, and cash management. Plus, CSIA has negotiated special member pricing and packages at various price points to fit your budget. Clayton and McKervey has helped many CSIA members over the years and is super excited to help you improve your financial performance through this program. To learn more, visit www.controlsys.org/checkup. So no talk about digital transformation is complete without bringing up the C word, cybersecurity. What can you say about that?
Yeah, this is, unfortunately, this is a side effect that comes along with a lot of these technologies. And having seen it just within my own, professional network of, either companies that I work with or where friends of mine work, cybersecurity needs to be at the forefront of any conversation you're having. If you're thinking about implementing something like robotic process automation, there's significant benefits to it. It'll improve efficiency, help you, get through your workload a lot faster than, what you're doing today. But you have to understand that this also creates another avenue that a potential hacker could exploit to get into your company's information. I had heard at a presentation a while back an example of a company had implemented a bot, to process their accounts payable, and hacker gets into the company's infrastructure, is kind of sitting in the back, just watching how everything works, realizes there's a bot that handles accounts payable, goes in, understands the function of the bot, and that, hey, if the bot gets, 10 invoices in a row for 10 invoices from a particular company, it goes in, adds that company as a vendor, and moves forward. So the hacker just has to go in, follow the bot's protocol. Next thing you know, he's set up a fictitious vendor within the company, and he's getting paid without ever having to, lift a finger. So clients really need to think about how these things could be impacted by cybersecurity. I think Industrial Internet of Things is going to provide a lot of opportunities for businesses to have a better understanding of everything that's going on their plant floor. But then it also dramatically increases the surface area that they have to try and protect from cybersecurity threats. You think about the hacking incident with Target a number of years back. They got into the system through the HVAC system. So it's not like they were attacking the point of sale, or they were sending, social engineering emails to people in the company. They found a weakness and then exploited it. So companies really need to be cognizant of that.
Wasn't that a plot line on Silicon Valley? I swear there was something where they were using the refrigerators to do something. I don't know, backdoor the system.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
This doesn't mean the company should avoid digital transformation, right?
No, not at all. I think, if you're just going to kind of try and bury your head in the sand and say, well, I'm not going to do any of this because I could potentially be hacked, you'll quickly find yourself left behind. It's one of those things you've got to make sure you're considering and that you're taking the appropriate steps to ensure that you don't have any vulnerabilities. Or, it's unfortunately, if you talk to any IT, cybersecurity professional, there's no way to completely, prevent any kind of cybersecurity issues. But the best you can do is make sure your staff is trained, they're aware of the risks that are out there. Internally here, we have a program that everybody goes through, kind of updating them on the latest cybersecurity trends and issues to be aware of. every now and then we get a fake spam email sent to us that we're not supposed to click on, and we're supposed to report just to kind of test how well we're keeping track of things. So you just need to have a plan for how you're going to address it, so that you can take advantage of some of these new tools that are going to be available.
So any final words to businesses or people that are wanting to stay relevant?
Yeah, I think I was speaking to a colleague, a number of years back, and I think anybody who's in a highly technical industry like system integrators knows that today's cutting edge solution is tomorrow's obsolete solution. So you always have to be looking for how do we continue to evolve our business and take advantage of these technologies that are out there. And unfortunately, if you look at all your potentials out there, most companies don't have the resources to be able to go after and chase every single one. So it's important to, kind of establish that future state that you're trying to get to, make sure that you're reevaluating that on a regular basis, an annual basis or a couple times a year, and then select the projects or the new technologies that you want to implement that are going to help you move closer to that future state, and then just continue to update that plan and move forward.
Okay, so I lied. That wasn't my final question. Before we sign off, I want to ask you one more thing. If you could get into the Back to the Future DeLorean and have a chat with younger Bryan, notice how I didn't say young Bryan, I said younger Bryan. What words of advice would you have for him?
Outside of investing in Apple and Google when they first came out, I think it's, the important thing to me is just, find a profession, where you enjoy the people you work with and the projects you work on, and make sure that you're bringing those people value. That's, I think, again, one of the parts I really love about my job is to be able to sit across the table from a business owner, and my particular area of expertise is research and development tax credits. And so to be able to sit across the table from a business owner and show them, hey, because of this, we're able to get you back, however many, thousands of dollars it is on your tax return, knowing that business owner then is going to turn that around, be able to invest that in their business, invest it in their people, and grow their company. That's pretty exciting and rewarding to me.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Talking Industrial Automation. If you are interested in learning more about Clayton and McKervey, you can find them on the Industrial Automation Exchange at www.csiaexchange.com. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Bryan, for joining me today.
Thank you.
If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also help others find us by leaving a 5-star review and sharing your favorite episodes with colleagues. Thanks for listening to the Talking Industrial Automation podcast. Thanks also to bensound.com and Wistia for the music bumpers. Until next time.